from his basement. It is the Mr. Phelps Show! Hello, my viewers. Hello. Great to be here again. Great to be here. I welcome you to the Mr. Phelps Show with coffee. That stuff never stops tasting good. Hello, everyone. How you doing today? I got a show for you today that's out of this world, because we're looking at the War of the Worlds, and also looking at aliens and whether they truly exist. I mean, this was a book here that was written back in 1896 or 1897. Let's see here. 1896 or 1897. I believe it was published first in a newspaper. I could be wrong on that. But this book was written in England. It takes place in England, and it has to do with Martians coming and infiltrating planet Earth in England. And it's a pretty remarkable book. If you look at all the natural disasters that has happened throughout the world, a lot of them could be traced back to this book, not the actual disasters themselves, but the idea of disaster and how we practice when there is a disaster in our world, or destruction or war. A lot of the similar things that happened here happened in future wars, like World War I and World War II. This was written before World War I. All right, so again, it's the War of the Worlds, written by H.G. Wells. You might have seen the movie. It had an adaptation of it that came out. So, pretty popular book. So, this is one of the greatest sci-fi books on the planet. And one of the ones that really started us off into learning about not only extraterrestrial life, but also war and disasters that happened in our world. So in the movie, you've probably seen the Tom Cruise one. He stars in the 2005 adaptation, but I believe there is another movie, and it's quite different from the book. They kind of modernized it, and it was written in 1897. So there you go. The movie has been a modernized version. When this book was written back in 1897, they didn't have cars, they didn't have things. This book mentions horse-drawn carriages. So that's one way they traveled around when all of these things happened. All right. So before we start with everything, we're going to go have a weather report with our friendly meteorologist, Mr. Phelps, and I'll have him get started with the weather report, and then we'll tune right back in and talk more about H.G. Wells' War of the Worlds. Starlight, star bright, the first star I see tonight. Hello, viewers. I welcome you to the weather report. This is your friendly meteorologist, Mr. Phelps, and we're looking at the sky tonight. A very clear sky. A cool night, very clear sky. Perfect outside for this nice spring day. And I'm just looking at the stars as they come in the sky. Just such a beautiful sight. And it really makes me wonder, when you got stars, you have planets, are we the only living things out there? you have to really think about that. Planets can sustain lives if they're made the right way. And it's hard to imagine all this vast space, this big sky, and all this vast space in the universe without any extra life besides us. So, as you enjoy this nice, cool night, whether you're sleeping or whether you're going out and enjoying the beautiful breeze, I want you to think about this. Does extraterrestrial life exist? Do aliens exist? You might be able to catch sight of a UFO flying by or some unidentified flying object, and you might be thinking to yourself, they really do exist. We don't exactly know, but on a night like this, I'm sure they'd be very welcoming to come out because it's breezy, it's cool, it's perfect. I hope you all enjoy it. Thank you. Have a good night. Thank you, Mr. Phelps. Thank you. Now we're going to get back to the War of the Worlds, okay? This book is very special because it was written before the World Wars, but it has it's very similar to how the World War unfolded in terms of how people reacted and terrorism and death. And although in this case it's Martians coming to attack the Earth, in the World Wars it was other nations coming to attack. So it's a little bit different, but the outcome's kind of the same. You get a full, large-scale war. And this book really introduced us to that. All right? So another thing that's pretty interesting about this book is that it connects to European imperialism, because although Europeans aren't invading in this book, we have aliens invading European land. So it's kind of the opposite. European imperialism, people from England and Europe, they were probably the stronger nations going to invade and infiltrate a nation that wasn't as powerful as them. Well, in this book, you see something even bigger, where the aliens tend to be more powerful than the humans, and they're infiltrating England. So it's pretty remarkable how that unfolds. So you can learn a lot about war, imperialism, things like that just by reading this book. And that has somewhat to do with aliens, but also is a completely different topic that you could learn by reading this book. All right. Others, what I personally like about this novel is that H.G. Wells makes it feel so real. Okay, he uses a lot of scientific terminology to describe the aliens, but he also describes the war as if you're there, and it's almost like this was a true story the way he wrote it. Although it's a fiction book, he writes it like it's nonfiction, like it's happened, like the aliens had every right to, or really came from Mars and attacked Earth. He made it feel like it was so real, and his use of language and vocabulary in here makes it seem like it's actually happened. So it's pretty unique. Like, you feel very much in the moment when you read this. So I really like that about the book. And a lot of his scientific he has a lot of scientific reasoning for what happens in this book. And although his characters don't have names, they still feel very relatable and real. So it's interesting to think about that as you read. All right. We know the novel isn't real, and that aliens and Martians haven't existed, but H.G. Wells poses that question. Can aliens really exist? Now, I wasn't around when this book came out, but I've heard somewhere that people actually started buying into the belief that aliens were real after reading this book, just because H.G. Wells makes you feel like they are real. And so this book really buys into the idea of aliens being real. And that's why I must ask myself, are aliens real? Is intelligent life form life forms more intelligent than humans, as we see in this book, are real. It poses the question, are they real or are they not? Something to think about, but H.G. Wells makes it feel real. He makes the aliens feel real, and he makes them terrifying. He makes them powerful. He makes them infiltrating Earth and destroying things, just like a war would. So really put that thought in people's heads as they read this book and continue to read it today. Interesting. In any case, we're going to take a look at this book and really pick it apart, and we're going to talk about the types of aliens that are here, because they're very unique, the way he describes the aliens. I mean, you don't see little green men all over the place. That just isn't a thing. But he does. H.G. Wells does describe aliens in a particular way. I call them aliens, Martians. They're from Mars. We know they're from Mars, and he describes them in a very particular way. What is going on here?
Welcome to NNN, Nebulous News, National News Network. I am your host, Seymour Stars. Here, we bring you UFOs, which means Uber Factual Omens. We tell you the truth as we learn it, all the latest and breaking news. At around 5 p.m., there was a strange sighting in the sky. Is it a bird? Is it a plane? Well, yes, in fact, we believe we have identified the 1937 aircraft by Amelia Earhart and Fred Noonan that had disappeared as they traveled over the Pacific Ocean. But the insane will tell you otherwise. They call them flying sausages, flying saucers, or UFOs, which stand for unusual flying octagons. But no, we call UFOs unusual frugal outlooks, because, my friends, we have nothing to fear, and those others that tell you otherwise are fake news. Any news of an alien invasion is a hoax, or as they say in UFO language, ubiquitously fraudulent obliviousness. Really, aliens? You want us to believe that? It's frivolous. That's the best you can come up with? E.T., you don't need to worry about phoning home because you never got here to begin with. That being said, Amelia Earhart has been spotted, and she has disappeared, and now she has been found. And I assure you, there's nothing to fear. As more information unfolds, you will hear it here first on the NNN, the Nebulous, National News Network. Thank you for tuning in, and you can go back to your regularly scheduled program.
Where am I? What just happened? I don't know where I am. Hello? Is anyone there? Hello?
Everybody get up, it's time to slam now. We got the real jam going down. Welcome to the Space Jam. Here's your chance, do your dance at the Space Jam. Alright.
Here. It looks like we have the Mr. Phelps Show mug, and we have a lot of different Starburst candy here. But the big question is, my friends, is where is Mr. Phelps? This is a big crime scene right here. Because we all know Mr. Phelps wouldn't go anywhere without his coffee mug, as great as this coffee is. And these starbursts, they're arranged in a weird pattern. Why are they here? I just don't get this. I need to think on this. I also need to know why I saw a big light. When I came in here, there was a big flash of light that brought me here, that brought me to this scene. And this is what is left. It makes me wonder where Mr. Phelps truly is. I better get on this case, my friends. I better get on this case. I welcome you to the Detective Stache Show with Detective Stache. Huh? I hear something. Who comes there? Who comes there?
Dude, it looks like some kind of alien storage place. Dude. Huh? Dude, I'm on camera, dude. Hello. What's going on?
Rex Marvel, this is not a time for you to come here.
Wait. Don't send me off, dude. Don't send me off. I know what happened, dude. I know what happened to Mr. Phelps, dude. That's why I'm here. I came to investigate because I saw what happened to Mr. Phelps, dude. Don't let me go. I mean, come on, dude.
I don't need any conspiracy theories.
I saw a giant flashing light, like the whole thing was like all flashing, and I was like, that's so totally awesome. It's an alien abduction, dudes.
Fine. Come. Take a seat. Take a seat.
Dudes.
So you're telling me that Mr. Phelps was abducted by aliens? That's what you're telling me.
Yeah, dude, there was like this cool alien spaceship in the air, dude, and it was like so totally dude, and then it landed, and I'm like, whoa, and then this guy walks out, but it's not really a guy, it's like this little green alien dude, and I'm like, so totally awesome, and I'm like, I tried to get out my phone to take a picture, but my phone camera wasn't working, and dude, it was so cool, dude. I mean, this was like a dream come true for me. Dude.
Well, first of all, before we get into this, Mr. Rex Marvel, I need to check all your sources, because I don't trust you. You're a conspiracy theorist, and it's likely that some of your sources don't make sense. Which means, my friends, the Detective Stache Show has been turned into Sourcebusters.
Sourcebusters. If it's something fake and it doesn't sound right, who you gonna call? Sourcebusters. If there's no author there and they did inside, who you gonna call? Sourcebusters. I'm checking those facts. I'm checking those facts. Please, no Wikipedia. If you aren't quite sure if they're telling the truth, who you gonna call? Sourcebusters. If you see the words don't hold up their use, who you gonna call? Sourcebusters. I'm checking those facts. I'm checking those facts. So if you aren't sure, who you gonna call? Sourcebusters! Join today to have your sources verified and approved for learning. Call now and get a free MLA Works Cited Handbook and go out in style.
Welcome back to the NNN, National News Network. Once again, I'm Seymour Stars, and I'm here to bring you the latest breaking, truthful news. Gas prices have risen dramatically. People are upset, but we have a solution. Just recently, 2 cylinders have crashed to the earth, leaving a large impact. There are a bunch of conspiracy theorists out there who claim that these are Martians who live in cylinders and that are ready to attack and invade and eat us, but this is completely unfactual. Take a look at the cylinders and take a look at the back of a gas truck. Notice that they are very similar. In fact, they're the same. The only thing this could mean is that we are being praised and rewarded by Mother Nature in this tough time. Because gas prices are so high, the skies have saved us by dropping down gasoline so we can have an excess supply and can lower the price and demand of gas. No, this isn't an alien invasion. Don't listen to the naysayers who claim that Martians are attacking us. This is petroleum coming to us at a time of need. Right now, the areas of where these cylinders are blocked off as police further investigate. But soon enough, we shall see the gas dispersed to nearby stations and the prices will continue to lower. Remember, you heard it here first, folks. I am Seymour Stars, reporter for the NNN, the National News Network. Now back to your regularly scheduled programs.
So, we have our first suspect, Rex Marvel, a community conspiracy theorist. Where did he get his name? Well, he believes the T-Rex exists today, that it's hidden somewhere deep in the forest, hence the name Rex. And he's a big fan of Marvel Studios.
So, Rex Marvel, what do you think?
Yeah, Mr. Detective Sir, dude, I know exactly what happened to Mr. Phelps. It's all in this book right here that's about alien abductions. I mean, it's no lie, man. Mr. Phelps was abducted by an alien, dude. You can just see it. I mean, I came here, I saw that big light in the beginning, that huge light. Well, that was an alien, dude, and it was so awesome. The UFO flashed a big light, and then they came and they took Mr. Phelps with them and went to outer space. Like, how cool is that, dude?
You think Mr. Phelps was abducted by aliens. Now that is the biggest joke I've ever heard. Abducted by aliens. Why would you think that?
Dude, my eyes don't lie, and like I so totally did my research. I mean, this little green dude, he was like so totally cool, and dude, I even I didn't get pictures of the spaceship, dude, but I found other pictures here. See, like, yo, dude, these pictures are legit, man. I mean, you have them from different places. One's from New York, one's from Missouri. These are legit pictures of people who have found UFOs in the sky. So I don't see how they can't be credible when they've actually been real pictures, dude.
How do you know it isn't just some big frisbee blown up through Photoshop? They could really be tricking us. It might not be a real UFO.
I mean, dude, does it look Photoshopped to you? Come on, man. Does this picture look Photoshopped to you? Dude.
It could be anything. It could be, another type of giant aircraft. It could be a helicopter. It could be Amelia Earhart's airplane. You just never know. It's so far away in the picture, and you mean to tell me this is an alien spaceship, a UFO? It's just it's hard to grasp, my friend. You could be onto something. You could be, but how can we prove that?
And dude, you're wondering what those starbursts, what they are? You're wondering what sign they make? Well, dude, it's aliens, and they're coming down, and they made that sign there to let you know that they took Mr. Phelps.
So you're saying these starbursts here are a sign from outer space, or a sign from the aliens? They're trying to make a message to us, and it tells us that Mr. Phelps has been captured and we need to find him. That's absolutely ludicrous, my friend. Why would these be here? You know, why would they be making a sign that we can't understand? Does that make any sense to you?
That's why that's so weird, and they're left there. They weren't just left there from anywhere, dude. They were left there because the aliens came down and said, dude, we took Mr. Phelps. That's what those are arranged. It's like hieroglyphics to the max, dude. But it's so much cooler than that. It's like awesome. But they left it as a sign to say that they took Mr. Phelps. So I'm guessing those aren't for taking, right?
It's currently under investigation, so no, you can't touch anything here. The only thing I can touch is the coffee mug, because, you know, I gotta have my coffee in between shows. It's what stimulates my mind. Detective Stache needs his coffee.
Aw, man, I wish I could, because, like, Starbursts, they're so good, dude, but I guess, you know, you gotta keep them for your investigation, doc, sir. You know, dude?
Alright, so what else you got? Mr. Phelps, he disappeared. You say he's abducted by aliens, which is ridiculous. You say these are signs from alien beings. What else you got?
I tell you, this book is a non-fiction book. You can believe what you say about my sources, but I have a non-fiction book here that tells about alien abductions, dude. And these are real people saying real credible things about being abducted by aliens, dude. So take it or leave it, but, you know, it's so similar to what happened to Mr. Phelps with the flashing light.
What is your explanation for this light? You said you came to the site and you saw the light?
I trust what I saw, Doc. I do. You gotta believe me.
So you're saying that was the aliens, huh? That's absolutely ridiculous, my friend. I don't see how you could see aliens. Aliens have never been seen before, and you're telling me they came to this planet and abducted Mr. Phelps, and then left this sign here of Starburst to tell us that he's been abducted. I just don't get that.
Dude, this isn't just one time. There's a lot of sightings.
I know there's a lot of blog sites out there. I know there's books. I know there's testimonies. But it's hard. You're a conspiracy theorist. You believe this stuff. Not everybody's subject to believe in this.
They happen all the time. You just have to have your eyes open for it, you know? Dude.
Mr. Phelps could have just been out on a stroll today.
I know you find it hard to believe because, you know, you call me the crazy conspiracy theorist or whatever, but I saw it with my own eyes, and it's just like what happened to these two people in here, dude. I mean, it's what happened to Betty and Barney Hill. I'm reading it right now. They were like driving down the road and vroom, 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 and then they see a big light, and then there's this big UFO, dude, and it had a beautiful radiant light. Like, it was an awesome radiant light, and Betty was like, that's a UFO, but Barney didn't believe her. There's always the doubters, and he said, no, it's just an airplane, but then she saw it, and like, she had some weird dreams and some weird time displacements, and you know, dude, she realized she was abducted by aliens. How cool is that?
All right. I'll play along with you a little bit just to get these pieces straight to this evidence. I'll hear out your story, Mr. Rex Marvel, and we'll go from there, because at the end, I'm going to do an analysis of all these sources and determine which ones make sense and which ones are real and which ones are absolutely ludicrous. So please, go on and tell me.
Yeah, you know, their stories didn't really match up to what they were saying because they had dreams and they lost some time, and all they could remember was this UFO, and so they know it abducted them. And I'm telling you, Mr. Phelps had the same thing. It had that same light from the UFO dude that came and took him away. I mean, that's radically awesome, dude. You don't see that every day. But Betty and Barney, they saw it a long time ago, and it happened again to Mr. Phelps.
Now, I don't know if I should really be convinced here or not, but you're telling me the light you saw was the aliens coming down, creating a big light, and abducting him? I mean, that doesn't really make sense. I'm sorry.
They even said these aliens, they were humanoid, you know? They they were like humans, and so they took them and they examined them and they did like all these tests and stuff before they let them go. And dude, that was so cool. You know, they're not like the alien on my t-shirt per se, but you never know. I mean, you could find one like that out there somewhere, dude. But they were like these humanoid aliens, and they just kind of like observed them and checked them out, and it was like going to the doctor's office, except they were aliens, dude. Like, totally.
I don't know. This has weird written all over it, Rex Marvel, Mr. Marvel. Just, I gotta have some more coffee to think about this. That's good stuff.
And then, of course, Betty kept having these dreams and dreams, and she kept dreaming about these aliens, and it was like, whoa, totally, dude. Like, that was something that really, really happened. Like, these were vivid dreams, man, and she kept having them about these aliens, and they wouldn't go away.
You sure that's accurate? I mean, you are known as a conspiracy theorist, Rex. You are known as a conspiracy theorist. Not many people take you for seriousness.
See, it says here, what the Hills discovered through this process astonished them. They learned that Betty's dreams were like memories, dude. Aliens had indeed taken them aboard their spaceship, put them in separate rooms, and physically examined them before letting them go. Dude. Excited, they decided to share their story with others. In 1965, an article about their abduction appeared in a Boston newspaper. It's legit, dude. You gotta believe this stuff.
You're telling me ridiculous stuff. And what source should I believe for this?
They're in a book. You know, people talk about them. And look, they got an alien shirt on, dude. I forgot to mention that. Isn't it so totally cool? Like, dude. You know, you gotta believe a guy in an alien t-shirt. Dude.
Your own testimony, huh? Your own testimony.
Well, thanks for having me on the show, Mr. Dude, Doctor, whoever you are, Dr. Stache. This has been a pleasure, but please do take what I say, because this is not just a normal Mr. Phelps disappears. It's an alien abduction, dude. One of the coolest ones ever, but I understand we got to get that guy back. I mean, he was a pretty cool guy, so hopefully we can find him, dude. But just be careful. Alien abductions, you got it all. You got the big flashing light, you got the signs out there, and you got the disappearance. It just all makes sense. So I better get going now, because I got to go catch Tyrannosaurus Rex and prove you wrong again, Mr. Detective, because the T-Rex did not get extinct. It's out there, and I gotta go find him, along with taking some pictures of these aliens. I gotta go find some more. Alright, dude?
Anyway, Mr. Marvel, you definitely opened me up to a whole new brand of thinking. You know, conspiracy theories, abductions, alien abductions. This has been great. I love the evidence you've brought to the table. And just keep in mind, I'm testing you, okay? I test your ability to bring evidence. And what I do is I bring it to my debriefing room, and I look at everything, and I determine what is true and what is not. So I thank you today for your time and coming on here on the Detective Stache Show, because we're going to use that information and figure out what happened to Mr. Phelps. So thank you. Thank you, Mr. Marvel. Have an excellent day today.
Over and out, man.
Welcome back. It's Seymour Stars, your reporter for the NNN, National News Network. Today, we have some very important news. As of 2 p.m., there are reportedly water towers on the loose. Why do you ask? Water towers on the loose? Well, these water towers, since we've been hampered by global climate change, water's become more profound, and the U.S. government has had to put water away. So they put it in these giant robot-looking things that look like tripod. They're large water walking machines where water has been stored, and they're walking around our planet now. But have no fear, they're completely harmless. They do have heat rays that cause water to evaporate and disperse in the air, and they look ferocious, But these giant tripods are not scary Martians as many would often tell you to believe. They are water-carrying towers that are clearing our land of excessive waters and saving it for a time of need. Just don't get in their way. They might not be the friendliest. But you heard it here first. Don't listen to the naysayers that tell you they're Martians or crazy things. This has been a news report for NNN, National News Network. Back to your regularly scheduled program. Thank you.
Hello, hello? Well,
I got my book here.
I can continue reading The War of the Worlds. So, let's get into writing. I'll keep reading it. Book 1, The Coming of the Martians. The eve of the war. No one would have believed in the last years of the 19th century that this world was being watched keenly and closely by intelligences greater than man, yet as mortal as his own. That as men busied themselves about their various concerns, were scrutinized and studied perhaps most narrowly as a man with a microscope might scrutinize the transient creatures that swarm and multiply in a drop of water. This is getting good. As this investigation prolongs, I will take all this information and we will review it at the end to determine the validity of these sources. But until then, I have more guests that we must ask questions and figure out. So, I'm going to ask my good friend Albert Einstein, a scientist, about the validity and truth of whether aliens exist and whether that they can actually get here, like Martians and aliens and all those types of things. We're going to have him, an interview with him, because what Rex Marvel doesn't have is scientific proof. But Albert Einstein has years of scientific discovery, and he'll be able to tell us whether aliens exist and whether they could have abducted Mr. Phelps. So, without further ado, I'm going to ask my good friend Albert Einstein to come to the scene and interview with us. And we will ask him some questions and put him on the spot and test his ability to figure out what happened to Mr. Phelps. And here he comes.
Einstein, the science guy. Einstein, 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 Einstein.
Dr. Einstein, how are you today? It is a pleasure having you here. Well, yes, I am Mr. Einstein. Nice to meet you. And hey, where is Mr. Phelps? Isn't this the Mr. Phelps show? Yeah, well, it's a funny story. Mr. Phelps has disappeared, and that's why I'm here on the Detective Stache show, because I'm trying to find out what happened to Mr. Phelps. And that's why I've invited you here with some wonderful coffee.
Einstein, the science guy. Einstein, 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 the science guy. E equals MC squared.
So, we are in the middle of a Sourcebusters episode where we're looking at a variety of sources, you being one, to determine what happened to Mr. Phelps. I am led to believe that this is no strange disappearance. I'm thinking it is some kind of abduction. A very strange abduction, possibly an alien abduction. But I'm trying to gather evidence here to see if this is accurate. So I really need your help, Mr. Einstein. I really, really need your help. And some more coffee. All right. Let's get to it. Do aliens truly exist? What do you think, Mr. Einstein? What do you think? Do they exist? Or are they just a myth, made up? Well, aliens haven't been discovered yet on Earth, so we don't exactly think they're real entirely, but, you never know for sure, but most evidence would suggest that they don't exist. But the question is not whether they exist. Could they exist? That is what we're trying to investigate. That is it.
Well, according to NASA, it's possible. If you go on nasa.gov, you can see all their information about planets, about space, and according to them, it's definitely possible. But is that the case? No. There are planets out there that could sustain life just like Earth, but we haven't exactly found life out there. Maybe besides, bacteria on Mars or something. There's no real Martians coming down in machines and little green men or anything like that. That's all just mythological. But they could exist, knowing that planets could sustain this kind of life that we have on Earth.
Very true, Mr. Einstein. Very true. What is some of the info that NASA says about aliens? Obviously, NASA's a credible source, am I right? I mean, they are the top researchers in spacecraft and space and all that stuff. And their website's a .gov, nasa.gov. So, it's got to be credible if you ask me.
Just remember that the universe is so vast, there's many millions of galaxies, so there's gotta be other planets just like Earth out there. And if there's life here, there's a possibility that there's life out there, but we haven't discovered it yet. So it's hard to say what we know and what we don't know.
But what about UFOs? Intelligent aliens flying around in saucer-shaped ships and capturing and abducting people? What about that? Little green men? What do you think?
You've been listening to a lot of conspiracy theorists, though. I mean, UFOs? Who thought of UFOs? Aliens could exist in some way, shape, or form. But little green aliens? Who knows if they're really green? Who knows if they're capable of driving and flying UFOs towards us? No one knows for sure. No one knows the technology. No one knows what these types of things are. They just know that there could be life out there. We just don't know how intelligent.
But there have been abductions that have happened before. Rex Marvel showed me a book, an actual non-fiction book, that talked about two people being abducted. They had some kind of dream. It felt like a dream. They thought it was a dream, but there was evidence afterwards that they were abducted. What do you think of that?
Well, it sounds a little bit ridiculous to me. I mean, Mr. Phelps getting abducted by aliens?
So you're saying you don't believe in aliens then? That's what you're telling me, sir. You don't believe in aliens.
Like I said, aliens could be out there, but we don't know that they're out to abduct us, They could be more primitive than us. They could be so superior to us. But they haven't found us yet, and we haven't found them. So, I don't know what's up with Mr. Phelps, but to be abducted by aliens, I don't know. You'll have to keep trying, keep your nose out, and look for him. But one thing's for sure, alien life could exist. We just don't know in what capacity.
Thank you for that information, Einstein. So I take it you've told me what you could, but you can't really help me find Mr. Phelps. You don't know more information. I mean, if you look at the clues here, there's some signs left by Starburst Candy, which is very unusual. It's Mr. Phelps' coffee mug, which he never leaves without. And then, of course, Mr. Phelps is missing himself. So we're trying to uncover the truth, and I appreciate you for your time.
Anyway, it's getting late here. I gotta go do some more experiments on aerodynamics and things like that, so I better get going. It's been nice knowing y'all. Thank you.
Yes, Einstein.
Well, take care, Mr. Einstein. I truly appreciate your time here on the Detective Stache show, trying to figure out the whereabouts of Mr. Phelps as my mustache falls. These things are a little cheap, aren't they? Any case, we thank you, and we'll see you next time on the Detective Stache show. Thank you, Mr. Einstein. Thank you. And of course, Sourcebusters, which we will be getting into the meat of very shortly, now that we've gathered a bunch of sources. But without further ado, let's have a commercial break. They're so cold. Ew, this is disgusting.
Have no fear, my friend. I've got just the solution.
Tired of a musty microwave? Food splatters all over the place and creates a huge mess? Have no fear. Try the new Martian Heat Ray Ring, perfect for heating up all your foods and goods.
Wow, this tastes good. Thank you.
Don't thank me. Thank the Heat Ray Ring.
The Heat Ray Ring?
You want to get fired up? Go ahead and fire this thing away.
Cool.
Simply put this ring on your finger. Then, whenever you need to heat something up, fire away. Heat up your soggy pancakes. Heat up a fire in the house when it's cold. Liar, liar, pants on fire. It even works on the Wicked Witch of the West. Get the Martian Heat Ray Ring today and go out in fashion, just like the Martians in the War of the World. Try the Martian Heat Ray Ring today. Call 1-800-BURN. That's 1-800-BURN, BURN, and watch things sizzle.
Got me some maple syrup. Going out in style.
Call now in the next 10 minutes and you'll get a free bottle of pure maple syrup.
Excellent.
Your friendly meteorologist, Mr. Phelps, with his broken parasol that is now a satellite that I'm using to detect on Mars. Well, turns out I'm in the middle of a Martian storm. You can see a lot of dust picking up here, a lot of redness. There's extreme temperatures. Not the greatest here. Someone, please come help me. My parasol broke and it's a really bad dust storm here, and I need some help. And it's freezing. The temperature is very cold, and please help me get off Mars because this is not a fun time.
So, our final person on our show needs no introduction. He is President Abraham Lincoln. And why do I ask a president who has died so many years ago to come on my show? It's because he can never tell a lie. And we are going to take this evidence and put it in a lie detector test. So, Mr. Lincoln will tell us the absolute truth of this evidence and nothing less. And hopefully it shall lead us to find Mr. Phelps. I must take a little break. I'm terribly thirsty. In any case, I'm going to present to you President Abraham Lincoln, and I'm going to put this evidence and bust it through Sourcebusters, and we're going to figure out what is true and what is not, and where Mr. Phelps is. So, Abe Lincoln, I welcome you to the show. All right, Mr. Lincoln, thank you for coming here to fact check all of our information. There's no better way to fact check our information because we want to go back and make sure we have the right sources, the most credible sources, and that they make sense. This is the only way that we can be accurate in our argument or in our search or whatever it is we do. So, thank you. Thank you for coming today, and I appreciate you being here so that we can go through our information. If you must let me get one more thing to help with our investigation.
Hello, thank you for having me here. I am President Abraham Lincoln, and as they say, I cannot tell a lie, and that's why I'm here doing your Lincoln detection test to make sure your evidence is super-proof and not fake.
This is my board of truth, and I only write things on here that is true from our evidence. So, as I talk with you, President Lincoln, I am going to add to my board here, and we are going to write down each clue and the truth of it all. Alright? So, let's first take a look at these images that were presented to me from Rex Marvel. Clue number 1.
This is a complicated one. I mean, those images you have there, while they look legitimate, do they really solve the problem? I mean, you could assume that they're from something else. They could have been photoshopped. Even if they are reliable and they're true UFOs, they don't really get you to the conclusion. I'm gonna go with neutral.
Clue number 2. Rex's confession. Do we think what Rex Marvel said was accurate about him seeing aliens, him seeing the UFOs? What do we think, President Lincoln?
You know, I find the guy utterly hilarious. I think he's great, but what he says is a bunch of foolishness. I mean, he's a conspiracy theorist. You know how many conspiracy theorists talk about us presidents on their daily lives, about what happens to us? Yeah, I don't take him with very much salt or whatever the phrase is. I don't take that with very much truth. But believe what you want to hear. I do enjoy his company, though.
Unreliable. Why? Because he has a record of being a conspiracy theorist. He will say whatever is on his mind, but does he back it up with facts? Maybe not. Probably wouldn't tell him this, but unreliable. Alright, on to the next clue. Clue number 3. NNN News Network. What do we think, President Lincoln?
NNN News Network is the equivalent of fake news. I mean, have you ever seen anything on it that makes sense? There's nothing credible about that source at all. They're making up a bunch of baloney just to calm down people and let them know that we're not under attack like in the War of the Worlds.
It tells us about moving water towers and gas tanks. Well, they're more like robots, aren't they? But this news network wants you to think that aliens aren't coming, when in fact they very well could be. Or are they not?
Take it or leave it. I think it's all fake. It's just a bunch of baloney.
Let's see. Clue number 4. Alright, my clues. And that is essentially the starburst staying there, the coffee mug, Mr. Phelps being gone. What do you think, President Lincoln?
Your clues are quite interesting, but I must tell you, you do have one flaw in the system, Detective. You looked at all your evidence, but your evidence doesn't really lead you to believe if aliens exist. You're asking a bunch of questions here. You're asking about UFOs, you're asking about aliens, and you're asking where Mr. Phelps is. So I would say it's more or less inconclusive. You know, the signs there, I mean, somebody could have just come in and made signs with candy. It could have been anybody. You know, you don't know that it's aliens. You don't know it's indicative of that. And the coffee mug, he could have just stepped out. Who knows? So it's very hard to tell, but I would say neutral, inconclusive. You can't really make heads or tails of either way.
He says neutral. All right. Neutral. You think my own sources are neutral. Clue number 5. It's a book that claims actual alien abductions. What do you think, President Lincoln? This is a non-fiction book that talks about alien abductions.
Book that talks about alien abductions. Let's see. You got me thinking Lincoln, buddy. Well, let's say it's obviously a non-fiction book. It's truthful, but we don't know what the people say is truthful, so we can't really regard it much as being beneficial to our evidence if it's past stories. So I would say it's neutral. You take it or leave it as what it is, but in terms of source, it is written by a credible author. It is a true story to some extent.
I guess he's going with neutral, because although it's non-fiction, do we take what those people say for truth? You know, half of the times they were dazed or dreaming. Is what they say truly accurate? Were they truly abducted by aliens? It's a second-hand account. We believe the non-fiction piece of it, but do we believe their true calling? That's tough to say. Clue number 6. Blogs. What do we think about blogs?
Blogs, for the most part, they're fake, unless they're written by a scientist or an educator or someone of knowledge. Most of the blogs are fake, you know? I'm sure Rex Marvel found blogs from conspiracy theorists. Obviously, we don't take those to mean much. They're fake.
Of course, I knew you'd say unreliable. Anybody can put a blog out there. It's important to look at who wrote the blog. If it's by a conspiracy theorist, then obviously we're going to think it's unreliable, like Rex's blog, for example. But if it's by a scientist who has researched this and has years and years of research, it might be reliable. In this case, unreliable. My stache. This thing never stays on quite well. There we go. Clue number 7. Einstein. I had Einstein come on here and he told me about aliens, about planets, and all the scientific facts that we could believe from it. What do we think, President Lincoln? What do we think?
Albert Einstein, a scientist of many years. Obviously, what the guy says means much. He uses math, he uses science, and he proves his points. I say he's very reliable.
Yes, I would say it is accurate. He gave us accurate information. Reliable. Excellent. We finally have a reliable source from Einstein himself. Clue number 8. NASA website. Einstein mentioned the NASA website. It has a bunch of information about space. What do we think?
NASA.gov. A very reliable source because you get all the information about space and what could happen rather than what did happen. So for example, they'll say life can be sustained on a planet. It doesn't mean there's life there. But NASA.gov, it's a government-run website. Those are all great. They have all the great information that's truthful.
It's obviously a reliable source. brought to you by .gov. Thank you for having me here. Hopefully now I've shed some light on what you've been researching to tell you whether it's truthful or not. A lot of this is very, very tough because it could go either way with a lot of these. 7 years ago, we never had a lot of these sources, but now that we have these sources, you have to really weigh them and see which ones hold meaning and which ones help you solve the case. I can only tell you the truth. It's not my job to figure out everything. Just tell you what's accurate and what's true. So I hope you can do that and figure it out well, but you got a lot to start with, and I gave you the truth for what you have. Well, my fellow Sourcebusters, it seems as if our data is inconclusive based on President Lincoln's truths. It seems here we have quite a bit of evidence, but not everything is known as valid or could be considered valid. Some of them are up in the air, especially the accounts of having those weird dreams and having subconscious thoughts of meeting with aliens. I mean, it's very hard to believe somebody when they say that. And some coffee. So this is great. I thank you for coming on the show, Mr. Lincoln. I really appreciate you being able to help us source bust. Alright, I better get going. I have a presidential campaign I need to take care of. Take care, all. Take care. I thank you for watching today. We can conclude that the data is inconclusive. We don't really know where Mr. Phelps is, and I thank you for watching Sourcebusters and learning with us. But just remember, you are the ultimate thinker. You take this data and you believe what you want to believe. We just give you the truths. Thank you for watching Sourcebusters today.
Well, I've been here long enough. It looks like no one's coming for me. I'm stuck in this desolate land. So, I've gotten pretty far in my book. That's where I'm headed. I'm going to start on book 2, The Earth Under the Martians. Looks pretty interesting. Underfoot. In the first book, I have wandered so much from my own adventures to tell the experiences of my brother that all through the last 2 chapters, I and the curate have been lurking in the empty house at Halliford, whither we fled to escape the black smoke. There I will resume. We stopped there all Sunday night, all the next day, the day of the panic, in a little island of daylight, cut off by the black smoke from the rest of the world. We could do nothing but wait in aching inactivity during these 2 weary days. I guess I'm kind of stuck here too.
I interrupt your regularly scheduled program to bring you some latest breaking news on the NNN, the National News Network. Recently, we have just spotted some little green men roaming around. Many people will tell you that these little green men are Martians come from Mars to invade the Earth, but they are wrong. They are fake news. They are incorrect. These little green men are regularly everyday men that have been caught up in a tie-dyeing convention that has gone wrong. Apparently, they fell in a large pit of green dye and their pigment changed to green. Sounds awful, doesn't it? But have no fear, they're perfectly fine. They just have changed their pigment. But anyone telling you that these are Martians attacking our world are false claims. As you can see, the little green men are just like everyday people. They're not causing any harm, and they have obtained a new pigment. They're going out in style, my friends. So please do not fear of an alien invasion. It's not happening. There are no true aliens in Mars, and Earth is in good hands. Welcome our new pigment friends to our planet. Thank you for tuning in to NNN, the National News Network. You heard it here first. I am Seymour Stars, and I bring you the latest breaking news, and you can now return to your regularly scheduled program. Thank you.
There's a lot of question marks about this data, whether it's true or not, and we can't fully answer what happened to Mr. Phelps. So we're just going to have to hear from him himself whenever he returns, if he returns. It's the only possible solution I can come up with. Alright? So we're going to have to figure that out. So Where are you, Mr. Phelps? Please, come here. Come here. This coffee is getting cold without you. What's going on? I see a light.
Where am I? How did I get here?
It's Mr. Phelps. No way. It's Mr. Phelps. What are you doing? Where were you?
I actually don't know. I had the weirdest dream that I was visited by aliens and taken to their ship, and they were little green aliens. Like, who's gonna believe that? I don't know. It doesn't seem real, but it felt so real.
Yes, it sounds absolutely ridiculous, but we were actually on the trace to discovering that. And sorry, I had to borrow some of your coffee. It got me going for the Detective Stache Show. I just love doing that, don't I?
So what did you find? Did aliens really exist?
So we spent all of this time determining whether aliens exist and whether you were abducted by aliens and UFOs and all this stuff. I had people on my show and we were talking here and there, and my mustache was kind of falling off a little bit here. And we were really talking about, the whereabouts of you, because you would never leave your coffee mug behind.
Please, 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 can I have my coffee mug back? Please.
Yes. Here's your coffee, sir. Here's your coffee. You can have it back.
Wow, you got all that information? How long have I been gone for?
Well, you were gone about 2 hours.
I just was drinking my coffee, having a good time. Having a lot of caffeine, and then bam, I was like somewhere I wasn't, and now I'm back.
So it's true. You were abducted by aliens. I can't believe this. This is ridiculous.
You think I was captured by aliens? Like I said, it was only a dream. I mean, do you hear what you're saying? Honestly, I don't remember much. It's been a long day. Like you said, I lost a lot of time. I mean, I could have easily left those starbursts there. I can't remember. And this cup, I could have easily left my coffee mug there. I know I don't leave it much, but it could have happened once or twice. It's been a long day. I don't remember everything.
I thank you all for watching this episode of Sourcebusters. There's one thing I need to do. I need to put on this chart clue number 9. Mr. Phelps's confession. That's the clue number 9 I was looking for. Is it reliable? Is it unreliable? I'll leave that up to you to decide. Because that's what we do on Sourcebusters. We give you the information. We give you what we feel is right. But ultimately, you make that decision. So, I thank you for coming on this episode of Detective Stache Show, Sourcebusters edition, and hearing evidence from our side, and looking to see if aliens truly exist. So I thank you for coming here, and we'll see you next time. And I don't have any coffee to pull from because Mr. Phelps took it. He took it from me. So that's that.
Take care. Have a good one. Gonna enjoy this coffee. Take care now, Mr. Stache, Detective Stache. Thank you for attempting to solve this case. Whether you're accurate or not, it's kind of hard to tell, but it sounded like you had a good time, so take care now.
All right, bye, Mr. Phelps. I better get going now. I gotta go chase down Rex Marvel. He's been really trying to tap into places he shouldn't be, trying to find this roaming Tyrannosaurus Rex, and I must go and investigate and get him before he gets out of hand, because he's a conspiracy theorist and you can never trust him. So, take care, all my friends, and I will see you next time on the Detective Stache Show! And hopefully I have a mustache that stays on. Well, for the short time I was gone and forgot where I was, I remembered how great this coffee tasted. And now it looks like we've done a lot of research on extraterrestrial life and learned about the War of the Worlds. So kind of like getting two things done at once, which is pretty cool. So that being said, my job here is done. I'm going to break into some of these starbursts that are just lying here because they were here for some random reason. And we're going to have a good day. So let me just say my final tune. Thank you for watching the Mr. Phelps Show with coffee. Thank you, thank you. At first, I thought it was a dream, an imagined phantasm, one big lie, that aliens couldn't exist, it didn't make sense or fly. Little green men? Ha, the idea is so facetious and wry, but soon I realized this wasn't a story to belie. When I first saw it, looked like a star in the sky, but when it hit the ground, made a crater, we were stupefied. Incessant cylinders like meteors dropped on by. The men reconnoitered the craters where the Martians thrive. Strange creatures came out of the cylinders of Percher, oh my. They were ugly Martians, all the people outcried. At first we thought they weren't so sly, but hey, these things weren't just alkali. They were living, breathing, palpable, I certify. I just had to wonder, were they allies? These creatures were intelligent, I could testify. They didn't seem friendly, they were ready to defy. They didn't want to leave because Earth was their new hive. They weren't so transient, which made Earthlings terrified. These Martians were dangerous, no one would deny. When the armies fought back, many would die. A green light scintillated from one of these alien guys. It hit Earthlings, now they were fried. The Martians came in tumultuous tripods, large, gaunt, heavy metal and high, ready with heat rays, firing like an eye. Soon we watched the cities crumble, we had to say goodbye. The Martians blasted away, the War of the Worlds became live. The Martian spasmodic tentacles made it hard to run and hide. The soldiers fired back, it was worth a try, but to break the galvanized beast, fusillades of bullets proved too shy. The tripods were so big, the men barely reached the thighs. The Martian stomped through staccato steps well nigh. People, homes, and natures all left high and dry. There was chaos on the streets, and little Timmy cried, wondering whether he'd see his mom again, if she was even alive. Should he wait for her in danger or hitch a wagon ride? The Martians just kept coming, more cylinders fell from the sky. A Martian fecundity, the earth became awry. The Martians joined together, parabolic in their stride. Out for the hunt of man, it was only a matter of time. The Earthlings were outmatched, they couldn't pacify, but how they celebrated when the first tripod fell on the roadside. The victory was small, no evil untied. But sometimes, simple things can be a blessing in disguise. At the pinnacle of their strength, the Martians went bye-bye, became a heap of putrefaction, a dead pigsty. Mother Nature was on the Earthling's side. She swept bacteria like a paroxysm on the rise. Humans are immune, years of tolerance are built inside. But the Martians, they couldn't handle it and died. Such is irony that the Martians couldn't imply the invasion they brought was in complete subside. Now the humans realize they won't forget when the Martians were on the rise, almost took over the world until they met their demise. But the war is over. They were lucky to survive. Now it's time to rebuild, move on, recapture their lives. So was the War of the Worlds. It was one wild ride, and it set the tone for the world wars to arrive. E.T. Phone home. Over and out.